This is Gregory Doyle for ESPR Boxing. Delighted to be joined again by Owen McKendry. Me and Owen are just about to react to the European lightweight title fight between Emiliano Marsili and Gavin Gwyn. Owen, a complete action-packed fight. I don't really know where to start and where to end. What did you make of that madness?
It was madness in terms of the 47-year-old has come in and he's fought once on these shores, beat Derry Matthews years ago. He spent his whole career in Italy and he's come over and he was comfortably beating Gavin Gwyn. Now, Gavin Gwyn's not a world beater by any means, but for someone who is unknown, it's a very solid, credible win. And I know one of the scorecards was horrendous, had Gavin Gwyn 2 rounds up. I mean, I don't know how on God's green earth you can sit and look at that fight and say Gavin Gwyn's won that many rounds. But on the other two cards, he was up. One of them, he was 4 up. So he was 1 round away from, as long as he didn't get knocked out, guaranteed to retain his title on one judge's card. Just a real shame that one, Gavin Gwyn's European champion on a technicality, and two, that Marsili didn't have the chance to see the fight out.
Yeah, I think I can't really find anything to disagree with there. Um, Looking at going forward before we go into anything else, surely there's got to be grounds for a rematch to be ordered there. I mean, yeah, of course, if I'm Gavin Gwyn, if you're any fighter and you win a European title, you're delighted you win the European title, but surely he's going to have people when you go down the street saying, "Oh, well done, Gavin. Great that you won that fight, but you kind of got away with one there. The Italian fella, he got an injury." Surely he wants to correct that, and surely the EBU need to look at that and just say, "Right, okay, we're ordering the rematch. Let it take place, same place again. Give Gavin Gwyn the champion, home advantage." Surely that's something to look at. One.
Absolutely. I think it should be ordered. You know, Marsili was well on his way in my eyes and two of the judges' eyes to retaining his title. Carl Frampton hit the nail on the head. He said, if I'm Gavin Gwyn, he was terrible tonight. I wouldn't be celebrating that at all. And that's coming from a well-renowned and respected pundit. And I completely agree with everything he said. I think although you're European champion, there's always going to be that cloud cast over it because technically you haven't actually won it. And being that many rounds ahead, if I'm Marsili's team, I'm going to the EBU and I'm knocking their door down until they order the rematch.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Talks during the fight, Owen, of Marsili getting a little bit tired and Gwyn coming back into the fight. He did have a strong round the round before the fight was stopped, but I don't know about you, Owen, but I think that Marsili's the type of fighter. I think I had it maybe 5-2 and one, 5-2 to Marsili, maybe one even. You could
Mm.
easily call it 6-2 Marsili. It was close, one or two of the rounds, but I definitely had him quite well ahead. I do think that maybe round 10, 11, I could see Marsili winning another round, getting that little second wind and thinking, I'm nearly home. I'm going to put in a big round here, make it really hard for the judges. Did you get the same kind of feeling?
Absolutely. I think even in the rounds where he wasn't throwing as many punches, he was still bouncing around and moving around. Like I've never seen a fighter really do it like that before. He was coming
Looks
in.
like pen.
Obviously, Gavin Gwyn is one of the biggest lightweights I've ever seen. He's absolutely huge at 6 foot odd. How he makes that weight is ridiculous. But he was just Marcelli had it. He knew Gwyn couldn't get the distance in terms of he'd bounce around, come in, throw a left hook, follow it up, and then bounce back out again. But he
Yeah.
weren't throwing as many punches, but he looked happy as Larry just bouncing around the ring. It was almost like I want to take a round or two off in terms of what I'm throwing, but I need to keep the blood flowing. I need to keep on my toes. I can't stop. Otherwise, possibly at 47, it's a case of if I stop now, I'm not getting back up sort of thing. So yeah, I firmly believe he would have won minimum one more round. And with Gavin Gwyn's team telling him in the exact words of his corner man, you need to nail him and put him on his ass. I think that would make it perfect scenario for Marsili to win 1 or 2 rounds.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm listening to you, and you know that way when you're on these videos, you try and make talking points. I can't really disagree. I'm looking for something to say where I can go, no, well, do you know what? But no, I think it's completely right. 47-year-old looked like the younger guy in there, which you very rarely see. I can't believe that I'm saying a 47-year-old. That sounds as though that's only like a Bernard Hopkins thing, not a general decent champion from Italy. On beyond this fight, say it's not ordered by the EBU. Sam Knox, Mark Chamberlain, Reece Moulds, they're not going down the door for that fight, aren't they?
I think it's the absolute perfect fight for Sam Noakes. You look at the two
Yeah,
fights tonight. Sam Noakes, although he said himself and his team said sometimes he was getting a bit too gung ho almost because he likes to come on the inside. Marsili's best
yeah,
work was on the inside, almost sat back on the ropes, getting inside Gavin Gwyn's range, not allowing Gwyn to have the distance. And Sam Noakes, if he can get in those positions where Marsili was landing, and Marsili did rock Gavin Gwyn. Was it the first or second round? Might have been the first round where Gavin
I
Gwyn's
think
legs
so.
were all over the shop.
Yeah,
If Sam Noakes is landing those punches, it's good night. We've seen he's frightening at the weight, 12 fights, 12 wins, 12 stoppages. That is astonishing for a lightweight to have a 100% knockout record, even
yeah,
past, say, 5 fights, 6 fights. And then you're talking into double figures. That is outrageous. And the way Marsili fought tonight, I think out of that list, especially, Sam Noakes will be licking his lips at that fight and thinking, I will be the new European champion.
that's the thing, Owen. That's where I think that we might have a point here. Who promotes Sam Knox? Frank Warren. Who put on the show tonight? Frank Warren. A lot of these promoters, they're all guilty of it. When I say guilty, I don't mean that in a negative way. They want to make in-house
Of
fights for their fighter to be champion, to be in a dominant position. If they lose, oh well, there's one of my other fighters stepping in. I think that might be a high possibility next if it's not Marsili again. I think we might be looking at Gavin Gwyn and Sam Knox for the European lightweight title.
I think that's more than fair. And it's one of those fights where I'd be confident in making my prediction now. As I said, I think based off what I've seen of Gavin Gwyn, he said himself he likes a fight. He likes it in his post-fight interview where he said, when my team tried to tell me to box, but I just love to fight. And I think for someone like Sam Noakes, it's just music to his ears. I don't think that, regardless of winning the European title, in the weirdest sense possible, I think tonight, even though he's become a European champion, has lessened Gavin Gwyn's stock, and he's come out the worse a man.
Yeah. Do you know something on as you're talking there? I'm just thinking I quite like these little Friday fight nights with a Saturday ahead. It's there's talking points to it. You're interested. There's a different aspect to it. We can look at the big cards and think, wow, some of these little York Hall cards and a European title being on the line. It's exciting, isn't it? Because it's quite an intimate atmosphere. And I don't know about you, but I'm happy with more Friday nights after a working week to come home and watch a little bit of that. What about you?
Yeah, I think the only thing for me was it was half empty for the main event.
Yeah,
Even for the fight, the fight, the co-main, as we now call these fights, and often. I think fights like that, especially Sam Noakes is a knockout artist, and you had Gavin Gwyn fighting for European title against a maverick of a man because we didn't know anything about him, and he had one of the weirdest records I've ever seen. Um, but yeah, Friday night boxing, some great fights. Moses Atalma, unbelievable talent. I'm more than happy to sit on a Friday night and watch these, and then go again tomorrow night with your Mick Conlons, your Williamsons, etc. So I think it was a good card, and yeah, standard York night at York Hall. But let's have some more Friday night cards.
yeah. finally for tonight, Owen, I think it's just more a talking point of what do you take away from tonight in this fight. I think for me, I just feel it could have went one of two ways. Gavin Gwyn was disappointing. He's a very tough man. He can take decent a decent output from an opponent. Obviously, a certain level of opponent maybe, but he did take some good shots tonight. I do think that if the fight went on to the end, I could see Marsili picking up 1 or 2 rounds. Whether the judges gave it to Marsili, I don't know, but I think he probably would have went on and won the fight. What's your final thoughts for tonight on that fight or that card?
That the rematch needs to happen. I don't think it will, but the rematch needs to happen. I think if it does happen, Gavin Gwyn needs to come out for the kill early. He needs to try and stop him. And that's done more harm than good tonight for Gavin Gwyn. And off the top of my head, I could genuinely see that list of fighters you named, the British fighters, they all beat him based off tonight's performance alone. I'd have to, some of them would be a lot closer, but based off that tonight, is he top 5 in Britain at the weight? Probably not. And I don't think that's being harsh at all. Without trying to discredit Marsili, because I think Marsili, I say this quite often on these videos, he literally did the basics and was too much for Gavin Gwyn. He got in, he got out, and he didn't allow his distance, and he moved. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy. The basics of boxing, and one of the judges had him 4 rounds up. So yeah, I just think for a talking point, Gavin Gwyn, top 5 lightweight in Britain, not for me.
Yeah. Well, just to cover off tonight, everyone, congratulations to Gavin Gwyn, the new EBU lightweight champion of Europe. A very controversial fight, a very controversial ending. We'll see what happens going forward from here, but it's really good to have a good Friday night card that we can enjoy. Talking points, drama. That's really what we're watching boxing for, let's be honest. Let's not kid anyone. But Owen, listen, thank you so much for coming on and joining me after the main event to talk about that. Guys, if you want to see more from us, subscribe to ESPR, all of our social platforms. If you want to share your thoughts about tonight's main event, about Marsili and Gwyn, if you have any thoughts of your own, put them down below in the comments. We'll try and get back to you. Maybe make it a talking point for the next video that we do on either fighter. But just rounding off now, Owen, thank you so much for coming on and joining me again, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Pleasure as always, mate.